The multiple wave oscillator that has got an incredible record of curing all kinds of diseases, including cancers. And more recently, Anthony Holland, who in a TED talk in 2011 shows how he cures cancer with sound frequencies. Unfortunately, Anthony Holland thought he'd become famous, and since then we've not heard anything of him. He's sort of disappeared.
We now know that cancer is vulnerable between the frequencies of 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz. Leukemia cell number 1 tries to grow a copy of itself, but the new cell is shattered into dozens of fragments and scattered across the slide. Leukemia cell number 2 then hyperinflates and also dies.
As you know by now, I like to connect the dots from the past to the present and see what we can learn from the ancient past and how we can put the ancient knowledge to the benefit of humanity today. There are 5 or 6 points that I like to stress before we start again, or as we start. That first of all, everything is connected. And this is where our education and information systems really let us down, because they compartmentalize everything for us and everything is hidden in boxes. The whole pyramid structure of our learning, our lives is completely divided in so many ways. Our history is much older than we can imagine. This is becoming more and more evident, and our history is also much stranger than what we can imagine. And that's been evident for a long time, but that strangeness seems to have been hidden from us. And it's from that perspective that we need to investigate different ways and different routes for humanity and everything we do. We know very, very little about what's really going on, the nature of reality, who we are, why we're here. If anyone tells you they've got it all figured out, they're lying to themselves and they're lying to you. But the ruins were not dwellings for people or animals, so what were these ruins for? This is a big question. Why did they build more than 10 million of these structures? What were they doing with all of this? And to get the answers for that, we have to look at creation itself. We have to grapple with a deeper understanding of creation and where things seem to come from. And that's to do with sound and resonance, the source of all creation. But the moment we come up with that statement or we enter that domain, we realize and start to face the horrible truth that everything we've been told is a lie. And like I said earlier, today I'm no longer surprised, and I truly believe that every facet of our reality has been affected, manipulated, infiltrated, and poisoned with half-truths. It's not always completely a lie, but the best way to tell a lie is you keep a little bit of the truth and then you're surrounded by a lot of falsifications. There are 3 holy cows of our education system that I love to talk about, and these 3 holy cows that many people find untouchable are that we evolved out of apes, humans evolved out of apes, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, and energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be converted from one form to another. Now, if you mention these in any kind of scientific debate with professors and very clever people from universities, they'll all sit and nod and argue, yes, absolutely, that's how it is. All bullshit. Absolute lies. The theory of evolution remains a theory of evolution. There is no scientific evidence ever shown that we evolved out of apes. It's all bogus crap that was put into our history books to remove us from a creator or any kind of creation process or the possibility of being created by other ETs or any such activity. So the theory of evolution is all part of the long line of lies and misinformation and deception that goes back thousands of years. It's not something that started recently. Right? The fact that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light was shattered already in 2005, but many ways has been shattered already. Even when Paul Dirac won his Nobel Prize in 1933, actually part of the Nobel Prize, or his quantum theory that he won the prize for, shows that subatomic particles move faster than the speed of light. But that was never brought up while he was receiving his Nobel Prize. So all these, it's just such nonsensical crap, and we all buy it because we believe these people at university are very clever. So at 2005, at the Middle Tennessee State University, 2 undergraduates and 3 high school students, I believe, propelled sound faster than the speed of light. And this was very quickly written up in the American Institute of Physics in 2007 and then hidden from sight. And again, this is what they do all the time. They publish it so they can use it as a trump card later. Oh, well, we knew about this all along. Look, we published it in 2005 and then, or 2007. And they hide it because they don't want people to know that you can propel sound faster than the speed of light. Of course you can. Why? Because sound is the source of all things. Sound is the creative source of everything, including light. We cannot create or destroy energy. Energy can just be converted from one to another. And then the next breath, they tell us that we all come from the Big Bang. There was nothing, and then suddenly everything is here. I believe that this is all part of the agenda to keep us dumbed down and manipulated. And they tell us that there are trillions of stars being born every second. Okay, wow. But I thought we can't create energy. So surely it takes energy for stars to be born. Where's that energy coming from? Space is a vacuum, so in a vacuum nothing can exist. So that busts EMC square, right? So energy is equal mass times speed of light square. Energy, mass, in a vacuum there's no mass. If the mass of vacuum is zero, that means 0 times the speed of light is 0. That means there's zero energy in space. So how can anything be created out of... What's going on here? You can't burn anything, nothing can move, there's nothing. There's zero energy. According to EMC square, there's zero energy. You can't do anything in a vacuum. Through all the lies and deceptions, there is one common denominator that remains the source of all things. And this is where it gets really exciting. Sound and resonance, the common links of creation. Sound, magneticism, electricity. And you'll see how this chain reaction causes everything that we observe when we look up at the night sky or the nature around us. Everything in creation spins and vibrates. Everything has its own prime resonance frequency. Everything. And this is why once we can identify a prime resonance frequency of a bacterium, we can then manipulate that object with its prime resonance frequency. Sound and resonance, common links of creation and religion. In Christianity, it's the word. In Hinduism, it's Om. The Egyptians believed the universe was sung into creation, and the original people of Australia, not the Aboriginal, keep that in mind. So it's the original people of Australia believed that the world was created with 3 sacred songs. Then we have the phenomenal similarities between the 6 days of creation in Christianity and the word that created everything. And then 6 aspects of Om and the 6 aspects of the all-seeing eye of Horus. It is the breath of the Creator, the prime resonance frequency, and the source code for everything in creation, including our DNA. It's great when you start seeing these connections. Sound is the source of all creation. Sound and resonance is responsible for everything. It is the breath of the Creator, the prime resonance frequency, and the source code for everything in creation, including our DNA. Every frequency has its own specific shape, a prime resonance frequency. Are you only looking at a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional effect? And this is just in the spectrum that we can hear. You can imagine in the low frequencies that we can't hear, it has the same effect. The higher the frequency, the more complex the shapes. This is from Hans Jenny's brilliant video, Cymatics. This is powder on a metal plate. It's not a liquid or a jelly, it's powder. You can see landscapes being formed here over extended periods of time. All to do with the sound of the earth, coming out of the earth. And some of these pictures, the images of this CymaScope images, tell us that it was these sounds, the images of the sound, that actually inspired religious symbols. That beautiful cross in a circle at the center of some of these cymatic photographs give us a very clear indication that the creators of the religious symbols knew exactly what they were talking about, that the source of creation is sound itself. Sound pretty much does everything you can imagine because it's a source of creation. Ancient civilizations understood sound and frequency, and they used it for everything. They used it as a tool, and they also used it to control and manipulate humanity. Nothing new. We know by now that the pineal gland is pretty much what represents the all-seeing eye of Horus. It's a receiver, it's a transmitter, it's a powerful tool that we should be using, but we're not, because it was manipulated with. This wristwatch with those 12 cones pointing at the middle
now know
shows us that they weren't only controlling our thoughts and our
between the
minds
frequencies
with sound
of
and frequency and
100,000
magnetics
hertz
in ancient
and
times.
300,000
We've been doing
hertz.
it for ages now. There's your all-seeing eye of Horus. There's your half of that weird wristwatch with the 6 cones facing.
You would have
the middle.
seen this many times.
All
Just a very quick idea that
sound and frequency. And
sound actually does levitate
using
things.
sound as a tool.
But this is not how the ancients used to levitate the very big, heavy objects. This is a very different technique used here. This is just pressure waves that can levitate things, very light objects. But it does give you the ability to imagine that sound actually levitates.
That represents sound, that primordial source of sound.
John Keely levitated stuff and drilled sound holes with sound in 1888 already.
Sound resonance. It creates huge amounts of energy that's used in laser beams, used in microwaves, laser beams, etc. Sound acts as a cloak of invisibility. Sound creates hurricanes. 2 guys in 2003 that lodged a patent to create hurricanes out of sound, believe it or not. And I believe they were granted their patent to create hurricanes. And maybe this is how they create the weather for us. Luc Montagnier, 2011, spontaneously generated DNA in water with sound frequencies. Right? So now you can see how we can manifest things. We become creators and can manifest anything with sound. And this is why we now know that sound is the ultimate source of free energy. And Nikola Tesla knew this. He knew that the earth rings like a bell, and he used the sound of the earth because it constantly rings, it never stops. He used it as a source of energy to create his free energy device. And this is where we realize that sound and magnetism is inextricably connected. It's sound that creates magnetic fields, and moving magnetic fields create electricity. It's in that order that creation seems to happen. So we don't live in an electromagnetic universe, we live in a magneto-electric universe. And this is where we start getting into the real understanding of some of the masters. And no matter how I look at it, how much research I do, I keep coming back to one guy that stands head and shoulders above all other researchers and inventors of, I don't know, for how many centuries. And that guy's name is Nikola Tesla. By now, if you don't know him yet, I suggest you go and do some research into this guy's work. He says, if you want to find out the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's exactly what I've been sharing with you here. They tell us that this is a light beam or electron riding a light beam. Can you see a particle anywhere in this picture? No, there's no particle. They're resonant waves, and yet they tell us it's an electron. Can you see how we get brainwashed? So this is what Nikola Tesla has to say about the electron from an interview in 1928. On the whole subject of matter, in fact, Dr. Tesla holds the view that are startlingly original. He disagrees with the concept of atomic theory of matter and does not believe in the existence of an electron as pictured by science. This is a shock to the system because we all think electrons everywhere. And you start seeing an agenda being developed here, an agenda being developed by mainstream universities, the mainstream scientific fraternity, under the guidance of those that are trying to lie to us and make us believe things that are not so. And phenomenal research and work has been done to show us what the different toroidal shapes and fields look like of different letters and different sounds, especially vowels. And then as we speak, these toroidal fields that we manufacture and we create with our mouths, infinite forms, infinite shapes, infinite creativity that we manifest, actually become scalar waves and scalar technology that go into all of creation and permeate all of creation instantly. So now you start to understand that every time you look at something that's carved out in a rock or a symbol or the caduceus, everything carries its frequency, and actually when you're looking at it, you're picking up the image and the sound is entering your subconscious through the fact that you're observing it and looking at it. So keep in mind, not only your thoughts are powerful tools, but the images and the words you write are powerful tools. The words that we write. This is why The original letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the 22 letters, are very specific shapes and size and forms. Each letter is actually a two-dimensional representation of the three-dimensional sound of that letter. The ether, the breath of creation, what holds everything together? What holds creation together? What holds the planets in place and so forth? And it was called the ether. And they were obsessed with the ether, and they couldn't quite understand what the ether was. They had all kinds of definitions for it. If only they understood that it was vibration and resonance. That's really what they were describing, was the ether, is vibration and resonance. The breath of the Creator that holds everything in perfect harmony and coherent, resonant harmony.